Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncy-Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. Friends, I want you to meet Lynda Cathcart. She is going to share her story today, and she just wrote an amazing open letter to women that I feel resonates with so many of us. After decades of caregiving, losing track of her creative self, she is bringing art and creativity and ownership back into her life. So, Lynda, can you share a little bit about that story?
It's a funny story. When I was in high school, I loved the arts. I was completely involved in music and painting, and that was what turned me on. When I went away to college, it was time to be a grown-up. But when I was in high school, I the best time for me was to be sitting on the couch, listening to a movie I love and painting at the same time, or drawing at the same time, because it just felt good to my brain. And I hadn't realized that had slipped away until one Christmas I had gotten my kids paint by number sets. They are very advanced now, they're fancy, and they had very little interest in it. So I was sitting on the couch with the paint by number set, listening to some movie I really care about, and I felt that feeling again. It was like when I hadn't been to a museum in a long time, and I walked in, and it was the New York Metropolitan Art Museum, and I felt like I was breathing again. It just really hit me as this is something that I completely forgot that I liked, which is frightening. How can you forget what you like? But that is a common problem with women who mother or caretake. We forget.
Yeah. Yeah. We get lost in the other reality. And I know now you describe your work as like part art, part history, part rebellion. But I'm curious, what does that rebellion part mean to you?
Oh, the rebellion, probably the first rebellion part personally is stepping into the things that I like to do without fear of making a wrong step, if that makes sense. Because I'd been a firstborn, tried to do the right thing, pleasing everybody. And so I stopped doing the things that I liked and the things that turned me on because I was told that any liberal arts education that you had, you're never going to make any money. So the rebellion personally has been just taking that leap and saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. Based on my past experience, what I've heard other people say, I should just fail miserably. But so far, it's actually been better than what I was doing before. I think it's your passion comes through, your interest comes through, and there's even when you're online with people who are your peers or people that you work with, they feel it. And let's see, on the other side, creatively has been to do the work, to do the art that I think that I like. I'm not trying to make art for other people. And I've never done anything like that. If you work in corporate, the work you do is for someone else. If you have a higher up, you want them to like you want to make them successful so you're successful. If you're a parent, the work I did was for my kids or my family, my entire family or my house or whatever, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. If I could remember what I wanted to do, but in this case, that's what it is. It's actually forgetting everybody else and then just leaning into the things that turn me on.
And what was your first kind of experience with AI as a creative tool that let you do that?
It wasn't until I took Secret AI Society with Jenna that I knew that these tools even existed. I remember seeing what she could do and not really understanding how it worked. She would have these betas, this is about a year ago, and she would set up a program to, in a few days, give you an idea of how the tools worked in helping you create a business or expand your business or just enjoy learning something. And I started to understand it a bit, but the real difference was when I became a member of a group of women in Discord. Bloom Bauer is just one of the most phenomenal women I have ever met. She is an artist that is an before AI artist, and she brought together this group of women. We all found her, and we started supporting each other and started sharing what we were learning and saying, "That looks good, it's coming along." Even when it looked bad, we still were supportive, and that really was where the experimentation took place because it was a very safe place. Everyone was experimenting. If somebody figured something out, they taught someone else how to do it. And that was really, it was just a really great space. And I think that was a huge turning point in my skill set.
Mhm. And you talk a lot about working in almost like this space of combinations, right? Like you appreciate historical beauty. You like to bring up forgotten, less represented narratives. I know you love storytelling with your images. So, how does AI help you kind of reimagine artistic talent on your own terms?
I was one of the people who started the magazine She is AI. And the first issue, we really didn't know how this was going to go. The leaders of it, Amanda and Rachel, had experience with magazines and in high fashion, and we all were given the opportunity to create something and write something and have it in the magazine. And I really wasn't sure what to do. And what happened was I was able to I was able to become a time traveler. I took the art of Henri Toulouse-Lautrec, the old posters from the 1890s, the Belle Epic of the dancers and the women leaning over the bar and the bartender, these very common images. And I crossed that with Alice in Wonderland. And then I crossed that with Paris at the same time that Lautrec was in Paris, Toulouse-Lautrec. I created this basic, this kind of cross time travel where I could look at something in a brand new way and pull different ideas out of it by layering different parts of history and clothing and literature and writers and places in the world at that time. And all of a sudden, it's true time travel. It takes away, this is going to be a common theme. AI takes away every barrier. It's just like lose the time barrier, you lose the skill barrier, you lose the artistic ability barrier. And by taking that away, you create worlds that could never be. And it's just incredible. It's really interesting to me. Plus, it gets you around the issue of having your work be in any way representing someone else's or looking similar to someone else's, because I don't know anyone else who's mixed that together and seen what would happen.
Exactly. And You're bringing up something that is totally unique to you because you've
Mhm.
been inspired by these other pieces. You've allowed them to be a part of the recipe, if you will, but it's different.
It is. It's anything that I wanna make it be. Alice in Wonderland, Alice became this girl who leaped and flew through the air, and then instead of having Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I had Tweedles, and these were women at the Moulin Rouge who served the drinks. They are all dressed similarly, they had similar hair. I had the Red Queen, I had the Mad Hatter, I had the Cheshire Cat, but it was all based in the reality of that time period, the clothing of that time period. The story came from someplace else. The mix came together in an unusual way, and every time that I go back and I revisit it, it still changes. The platforms are expanding so quickly that what I would have done 3 months ago looks like dog food compared to what we can do today.
Yeah, no, it's crazy when you talk about starting with She Is AI, like, that feels like a lifetime
It
ago, but
does.
it wasn't. We're
A year
talking
ago.
from 2024 to 2025. It's like that's a blip.
It really is, and I think people don't believe that you can learn as much as that coming flat-footed, literally flat-footed, at that in March last year to where I am now, and I don't believe it. It does take a time investment, but I don't know how you can't be turned on by it because it's you would think AI would be more limiting to women. You would see AI as being perfect people, perfect bodies, perfect hair, perfect homes. But the opposite's actually true. It's almost like the more you get involved in AI, the more you see more of yourself because what happens is you subconsciously, consciously, you're flowing yourself into this particular situation, whether it's mid journey or any one of the other imaging systems. And as you do that, it becomes pure and purer you, the
Mhm.
things you love. You start noticing, oh my gosh, everything I make are these three colors. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I think about this so often. And it's enlightening and it's forgiving because then you start looking at yourself in a different way. And even if it is you're not 22 years old anymore, that's okay. It really is okay. You can present yourself as you are right now, your best self.
That's been one of my favorite things really with this is watching how women take on their own representation within AI. I really think that there is some fun to be had there
Yes.
because it's so energizing to imagine yourself in all of these different situations, all of these different scenarios, and you can quite literally put yourself in them. So I'm curious, what is your general take on how women are represented in AI generated art right now? Because I know there's definitely some
Uh,
bias that's present.
oh, some.
I'm trying
Right.
to be as
Sorry.
general as
You're
possible.
very kind. Uh, when I started with Midjourney, I had the idea. I started getting images back that were they were 11-year-old boy images, not an 11-year-old boy. What an 11-year-old boy wants to see. You've got sexy teenage girls, you've got anime, you've got robots, you've got fighting, and everything was just harsh and overt. And every woman that I tried to create looked like a 15-year-old Playboy bunny, and it was shocking. I had no idea it was actually that bad, and, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that for so long, this area, the internet, has been populated primarily by what men look for, and I put just the word women in woman, and it was just sad. That was what was the definition. The images I got back were similar. And at that point, I thought, if I don't do anything else but try to populate the internet with images of what real people look like doing real things and what women look like at 40, women look like at 50, women look at like at 200 pounds, at 250 pounds, then if that's the only thing I managed to do, then I've been successful because I really want my kids, particularly my youngest, to be able to see that reflected back to them that they aren't just a one-trick pony. That's not our only value, and that's been the best part, getting out there and really trying to push the needle, and I think one of the biggest benefits that the Secret AI Society has had for just women overall is getting a a horde of women doing the same thing, getting out there, putting different images out there, really expanding what we see when we look for ourselves online.
Yeah. And that's always been what I've taken away from the experience of learning how to create images is that you are contributing to the betterment of the system because you're
Yeah.
adding more data.
Yes, exactly. I agree with that entirely. And the hard part is that what I'm finding is the younger set, my children's age, they see AI as an evil, and
Mhm.
they aren't seeing it for the value that it is. And I'm hoping at some point in time they will see the value, and at that time they will see themselves there. I don't know if that's across the board. I know, Michelle, you have kids, and I don't know how your kids feel about it.
Uh,
So,
I my 2 kids, they're actually night and day when it comes to how they feel about it. My youngest is incredibly interactive with ChatGPT, that's his language model of choice. And then my oldest, he will use it as a tutor. I had to teach him how because he quite literally had a college professor say to him, "We do not have the staff to help you right now.
wow,
In our math labs, in our advanced sciences, we don't have the staff to help you out. So if you use ChatGPT, use it as a tutor and you can get help faster, quicker that way."
I
And
love that.
that was the first time that he was told that he wasn't cheating because of course through school it was you're cheating. If
Yeah,
you even go near it, you're cheating.
yeah.
Okay. So I was trying to tell him you can use it to not give you the answers. You can use it as another teacher. So when
Mhm.
his professor told him to use it as a tutor, I was like, yes.
And that's exactly how it should be. I will be 59 this year. And I'm from a time when if you wanted to find a book at the library, you went to the card file and you sifted through, found it. You got a tiny little pencil, you wrote down the number, and then you toured the whole library trying to find that Dewey Decimal number. And I remember when I figured out that you could touch a word that you didn't know, it would give you the definition. I was in heaven. I have an undergraduate degree in ELIT, but and that's one of the most beautiful things about these advances to me as an older person, and I can see how having access to information as your kids age can really move them along faster because everybody they all learn in different ways at different rates. We're not perfectly round. We don't learn evenly. We learn a little more here, a little less there. And what AI does is it lets you figure out the things you're most interested in and then also helps support you in the ways that maybe are not quite as good. I mean, I don't know if your sons are great writers. I suspect they are because of you, but
Now there's pressure.
yeah. But it takes that barrier away where you can have the ideas and then get the idea out there and learn along the way.
Yeah. And I know that you've said that you want to teach, right? You said that you don't want to just make art, you actually want to be a teacher as well. So, what kinds of students do you want to work with?
I can tell you the turning point for me that's the most satisfying is when whatever age student it is figures out that this is a key that unlocks a whole future, a whole different life, a whole different way of looking at things. This key unlocks all opportunity. You can't paint? Well, who cares if you can't paint? You can't write? That's okay. Somebody had actually, I think it was on one of your previous episodes where they said that it's going to end up being where you and AI, the person and AI, that's the baseline. And then everything above that is where we're all going to be AI and a person, but your intelligence, your creativity, your ability to think out a prompt, maybe you don't write it perfectly, but you are logical or not logical, whatever that makes you unique, that's what your value is going to end up being. Not how fast you can add, not repetitive tasks. Can you do this every day, 50 times a day? No, it's taking that part away and getting more to the essence that's the human being. At least that's
Mhm.
the way I look at it. That is the exciting point for me in teaching when someone gets that, when someone says they start running with it. There's several women that I've worked with who all of a sudden they get it. And then you start seeing these incredible images on LinkedIn that they've made, and they're writing about it and they're excited about it. And there's hardly any better feeling than that to light someone else up the way it lit me up.
I know, and you've designed quite a few micro courses, have you not? I know I've seen
Yeah.
your Canva one. That one's super exciting, and you have workshops. So,
Yeah.
what's your biggest advice for someone who maybe feels like it's a little unapproachable? It's a little too much for the techies. What would you say?
I think the fact that you can't make a mistake. It's really what it comes down to is whatever you do is okay. You cannot make a mistake. It's all just learning along the way. If you're starting right now, you're starting with almost everybody else. And they're all running into walls and making mistakes or not understanding how things work, but it's created this sort of lab, gigantic lab of people just trying to figure out what the hell this thing is going to look like when we're done and how we can get control over the areas that can be dangerous and how we can expand on the areas that can help people. Particularly for me, accessibility is super important, and having access to these tools allows people who have arthritis or Parkinson's or who are dealing, even kids who are on the spectrum who have a hard time communicating. There, there's so many, it allows everyone to use the tools and to be creative, which for me, that's chill bumps. Everybody deserves to be creative. And I think that's really important. And I try to bring that to the courses that I teach. My goal is to have you show up, we work together as a large group, and you walk away knowing how to do something. And if that's the thing that gets you excited, then that I've won. That's the big benefit. So I'm teaching a Canva introduction to animation pop-up course basically because Canva actually has some really neat little bits of it that you can learn how to do just the basic animation. And I've started doing the same with CapCut, which is another tool that's used for editing. And I have just jumped into another pond because it's helped me so much. I wanted to share the wealth with Manus, which is an agent.
Yes. And I love how you described this. You talked about helping other people fill out their resources with Manus. Can you share a little bit about what you mean by that?
As an artist, I think we're a very solitary group of people, and it can be a writer, it can be someone who is in the arts in any way. Spend a lot of time by yourself. It's not a group sport. In that way, we don't, until you, I guess, get very famous, you don't have a group of people supporting you, directing you, helping you become financially viable. And Manus, which is just basically what they call an agent, which is basically Chat GBT on steroids, where you can ask for a huge umbrella level question and it goes out and finds the resources, does the analysis, breaks it down so you can understand it, asks for questions, helps you see the parts that you don't see that might be blind spots. That has been one of the greatest benefits. Rachel Zipsey, who I think is one of your past interviews, introduced us to that in one of my groups. She leads AI. And then Kay Stoner introduced a way of using it and the way that is just blew my mind. She created basically a whole steering committee of personas to help her solve problems. And I've done the same thing to help me be better at my business, to look for ways to make the most out of the work I do, to look for opportunities for collaboration, to get an idea of what's going to happen in the future. The economic situation, is anybody ever going to have money again? And this has just been it's been this wonderful group, and I've made them all women who have give me ideas and help me be. It ranges from people who are incredibly risk averse to women who are like, hey, let's go out. And also, if you know the Enneagram, I've run the Enneagram through them as well. So we have different personalities. I've run different ethnicities, people, different nationalities, and sexual orientation, gender, all the way through it. And so, what I feel like I've got now is a group that can handle almost any question and make sure that the answer is fair and rounded and expansive. I guess the word is expansive. And that's
So
one
you've
of the ways.
basic so you've basically created an AI team
Yeah.
and you've put in all this work developing them so that the answers that they're giving you are just that much more rich.
Yes. And I want to tell you the work developing them, this was an afternoon. This was just an afternoon I did this in. I just sat down and started asking questions and started building and started pulling in ideas and things that were important to me. And within 3 hours, I had this whole group. It was relatively easy to do. And I am not a computer programmer person. And actually, that's something I just found out about. What is the new coding word everyone says?
Oh, vibe coding?
Vibe coding. Yeah. You don't have to code. All you have to do is talk. You
Yeah.
just ask the questions, explain the end product that you want, and you'll get there. And you
Yeah.
can always futz around with it as you're going through. So that was one of the things. And the other thing was I recently started Curio, an AI film company. I've been wanting to do this and I took a leap. And so I had it create an entire analysis of viability, taking a look at competition, taking a look at who I can collaborate with, who buys it, who buys short films, and even competitions where your films are judged at like a film festival. And that's been incredibly useful too.
And that was
My
all through
courses.
Manus.
Yeah. And each one of my courses I have built using Manus, and they're better for it. I can't be sure I hit all the marks because there's still things I'm learning. But when I use that kind of support, I present information that's better and fuller and more engaging because I can even angle it towards whomever I'm teaching.
Because you only know what you know, right? It's like I am only in my own head. And so the more I can get a tool to tell me, what have I missed here? What are my blind spots? What else can I expect from you if this is my goal? If I'm asking those questions, then it's just the work's just going to be, as you said, the better for it.
It really is. It makes things much rounder. And it isn't that I don't know some of the answers, it's that I just never thought of asking the question. I can't keep everything. I can't keep everything to the front of my brain. Some of it resides in the depths of the back, and I have to draw them up. But when it asks questions, do you want to go in this direction? Have you thought about doing this? Then it makes me better as an educator.
I absolutely love that you said that. I can't hold everything.
Oh, you can't. Don't you feel that way? I do.
I feel that way all the time. And I think there have been somebody in my past has said something about reading an article, because the minute they said about they read this article, I was like, oh my God, because basically, long story short, what she was talking about is there's a reason why women are so tired, because we are holding all the things, right? And we are exhausted because we're mentally, okay, got to move this here, got to do that there, got to move for this, got to do this, got to check that, because we're holding on to the lives of not just ourselves, but everyone around us.
Yeah, that's
And
really true.
it's exhausting. And there was an actual article. Couldn't find it right now if I tried. So don't ask. But I promise you I did actually read it, because I was like, wait, that's really a thing. That's not just me.
There's a word for it too. It's something about something load. Emotional load. Is it emotional load?
Cognitive
Like
load.
cognitive load. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
it's true. When you have young children, you have to remember, okay, did they drink enough water today? Did they go to the bathroom today? He cut it? He's got splinter. We got to deal with that. Oh, ear infection coming on. Oh, Thanksgiving's coming up. I got to order this. And all these. Think about when you went on vacation when you were a young mother. My husband packed back. That's it. I packed my kids. I packed things for them to play with in the car. I It is entirely different because you're thinking about the needs of these kids and the needs of your family. And carrying that around is just huge, which makes us really good at AI because we know how to multitask and we know how to maybe not have all the on-off answers, the yes-no answers. We are much more comfortable with the gray areas. There's a sense in women of a greater sense of mystery and wonder and magic that we see in the world. I remember when I had my first child and I thought, gosh, we ought to x-ray this child. We ought to do an MRI because how can this have worked? To work? Are you sure everything's in this thing that I just had? And it is miraculous.
Yeah.
How can I just read an article today about the fungus under the earth is basically like a neural network that supports trees and dirt and worms and makes our lives possible that they just never even knew about. The fungus is ahead of us. They have already got it figured out. So there's a lot of mystery in the world. I think women can hold that better, which makes us better at being creative, which makes us better at imagining things that maybe are gentler And, well, in a lot of cases, more, I don't know if the right word is refined, but I'll
Mhm.
throw that out there. It might be 50% of the people listening thinking, I don't think so.
It's all right. You're allowed. You put your voice out there. And I know that we're talking now about the assets that women bring to this space. I know that we're grateful for a lot of the women that we've interacted with, the voices that they're bringing to the table, the thoughtful discussions. But I don't think we can forget 100% that there are so many women carrying this kind of quiet, subliminal almost belief that it's too late. It's like,
Yes.
I did that. I did what I did. I made my choices. I'm not starting over.
I was one of the women that was there. I
And what would you say to those that still hang on to that?
I think they need to cut themselves some slack. It depends on where they are in their life journey. It would have been impossible for me to have started a business before my eldest, who's on the spectrum, reached a certain age. It would have just, I didn't have the capacity. Like you said earlier, how much you carry around. I didn't have the capacity. I didn't even know what I liked. I ceased being a human being. I was a servant to others. And I don't think that's uncommon. And you need to cut yourself some slack until you get to a point where you feel like you have 5 minutes to sit down and just think, not watch TV, not have, just be quiet and think. It's something that parents, mothers rarely get to do in silence and to listen to what they want. I would go away for the weekend when my kids were younger and hope that 3 days was enough. Will I start feeling like a human being in 3 days? And it takes a while. It took a while for me. I went in several different directions when I started my company. I took a course in learning how to be a VA. Had used no tools online. I knew nothing about it. And it evolved over the next couple of years of me feeling more comfortable. But having the time or making the time for you to have a creative outlet like what we're talking about is, it's life-giving. I don't know any other way of saying it. It is a very boring, unexciting, monotonous, never-ending life when you're only doing things for other people. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I don't love my children, doesn't mean I don't love my husband or my dogs. I love them, but you have to save something for yourself. And a lot of times we dig ourselves into these holes and it's not easy to get back out of them. And when you do get back out of them, it's not easy to then figure out what you used to like. Actually, that's something I'm working on. I read a story about that when a woman goes through menopause, it's basically like you're returning to the pre-hormonal teenager years where before all the you started to change the things that you love to do. You start remembering the things that you love to do while not being clouded with the hormones. And that's something I would love to be able to create an app where a woman could talk to that person that she was at that point in time, just a back and forth, bringing up things. And then you get a chance to talk to that girl
Mhm.
who's doing stuff that she'd like to do. And I think that's what we come back to, but you got to give yourself time to get there. And it
Yeah.
just takes a while.
I would imagine it would take a little bit of healing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's very true. When I first started with a family, I really wanted to be home with them, and I didn't really understand the consequences of that decision until later. And most of my friends work part-time or work full-time and had kids and had nannies or daycare. And they got a chance to get a break. And you go 25 years without a break. Mom, do you know where this is? Mom, you love them, but you are only human. And I think that it is impossible for our brains to go through something like parenthood, being a mother, and not have some serious changes in how we see ourselves and how we think, our ability to think. I remember having my kids, and you have baby brain afterwards, and all that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think it takes time to heal, and people need to be kind to themselves while they're trying to do it.
100%. I am assuming, just from what I know about the people that tune in to the show, our beautiful friends in the audience are going to want to connect with you again. So where can our friends view your work, explore your courses, get in touch with you if they want to collaborate with you? Where are all of your places?
Oh, I am on social media, but my website's probably the safest bet. And it's my name. It's lindacathcart.com. And I have my courses on my website, my images, and right now I'm creating a place for my films. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. And I was very lucky in starting this avenue, this leg of my life. And previously, I've had women who have offered help and service and intelligence and knowledge along the way. And I am a huge believer in paying it forward. Get in touch with me. That's what I can say is just get in touch with me. I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you there are a lot of women out there who some of them do have the answers, and I'm a great connector.
Yes, yes. And there's a generosity and spirit that exists within you that I think people will just be very pleased to connect with.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be wonderful.
So is there anything else that's next for you? What's on your agenda?
I have my first show in New York. I have my first gallery show in New York of my artwork, and I am entering into several different film festivals for the first time. And I'm working actually with this person who's building this 3D world. His name is Vasco Rice, I think it's REIS. It's called 3D World, and it's like it's a social world. And he has created this world where people who have art would have galleries. You could walk through their gallery. People who have movies can you can go in there and see their movies. It's just a great way to access the work that people are doing online that it's interesting. Music, if they're an artist and you want to walk in and listen to one of their concerts, it's just fascinating. So I started working with him a bit, and that's been super exciting.
Sounds amazing.
It
That
is.
sounds so, so neat.
I will pass it along to you a little bit later. You'd like it.
That is so fun. You're going to share all of your links with me. We're going to make sure we put those in the show notes. And Lynda, thank you.
This was so much fun. It is always such a
Thank
pleasure to talk to you. I just enjoy it intensely.
Right back at you.
You're just a blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource, created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.